further ado, I will let John introduce himself and we'll start talking about his work.
All right, I'm John Simmons. I'm from Jacksonville, Alabama. I was born and raised there. I went to university there. Did graphic design jobs and kind of found that um, I I like to work with my hands a lot, and I've always known that. But that's that's the best way I've been able to bring about my ideas would be through creating.
Everything was X-Acto knife and everything was cut and paste and everything had a flap. So did you start more on the physical or did you start more on the...
I started more on the computer side of things, so kind of like being behind a desk all day. I wanted to be able to utilize my, for lack of a better way to describe this, fine art skills like mark making, painting, drawing, collaging, mixed media stuff to, yeah, like the work that works the best for me is when I'm using my hands, getting into it. One thing I like about collage is that with it's piecemeal, so you have like all these individual pieces and parts, and it allows me to not get so in my head about like if I'm about to start a drawing or something and I'm like, oh, what do I have to draw, you know? It allows me to have these bits, like units of structure that I can then, you know, turn into a composition through just like color or the way certain objects react to other objects or layers. But yeah, I found that my work, collage is the best representative of my work and me using my hands. And I'd make like collages, digital kind of collages, where they're not so strict like paper, you know, based things. Sometimes I'll take these and then turn them into digital and just mess with them more. But that's what my main artist practice right now is definitely collage. I do graphic design stuff on the side, but that's what you know, my focus is on.
Do you keep a sketchbook? Do you have ideas for collage pieces? How do you start?
So like I'll draw something I'll draw one day and I'll just like, whatever, and just like toss it in a pile of stuff that I have. And, you know, when I come to like create a collage or just something in general, just a piece, I start to dig through all that stuff. And some of it's old drawings, some of it's drawings from when I was like a kid, some of it's like, I mean, family stuff, some of it's like drawings and from like my grandfather's. It's what I like about the process is the process. Like that's my thing, is that like a lot of times I don't necessarily have a specific meaning. Not that I don't encourage people to you know, interpret it their own way if they'd like. But I just hate to have like a strict, like this is what this means when they're so abstract. And for me, it's just a process of discovery. You know, like Ritual of Renewal, taking these despondent pieces and creating a whole out of them.
This one,
Absolutely. Like if there's like a color I'm looking for, like a shape or texture, then yeah, I want to have like several available. So like if it doesn't work for this one, maybe it could work for this one, you know? A lot, you know, it's as simple as like laying it down and just like looking at it and using my design sensibilities and understanding like balance and rhythm and those kinds of things to like make it work and not just be like a jumbled mess where hopefully um, I'm creating collages that are drawing the eye through the piece rather than it just being like, you know. I do use little subtle focal points and like color and things just to kind of lead your eye like throughout the piece sometimes. But and then there's like certain iconography that I like to use a lot, like eyes. There's like eyes on them on pretty much every single one of these. And one thing I kind of took this from Basquiat, that idea of like taking these symbols and things that are like were created to mean like simple things, and him just having this affinity with like um, images and like little signs for things, and so that he would bring those into his work. But so like for me personally, some of these don't necessarily have like a specific meaning except for, you know, like the eyes, the window of the soul kind of thing. But I don't want to get too yes. You know, but yeah, I mean, there's eyes on a lot of them. There's I guess eyes is the main thing, but also numbers, and that comes from like the graphic design thing and like type, and so because I definitely have an affinity for type, and
I know a lot of these have text on them, and sometimes I've cautioned folks about using text in artworks because it almost always becomes a focal point when you use text in an artwork. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's
Or
true.
how do you
No, that's
how do you place
I mean,
when you're considering text on a piece?
there's like this innate thing inside of me that's like that works, that doesn't work. It's just like I've been told before, like by some of my professors, to just not be so anxious about things and trust my design intuition. They're like, you have extremely strong like design intuition, so like if you can follow that and nurture it and not get so back and forth and move it, you'll be a lot more successful. But yeah, I guess it kind of goes to that idea.
And how I always, especially with collage artists, I'm always interested because some people are very organized and I keep all my blues here, or I keep all my text here, or I keep all my eyes here. And some people are like, no, I thrive on the chaos. I love digging through. That's part of what keeps me interested. Where on that spectrum?
I guess I'm kind of in the middle. Like when not the older I'm getting, I've noticed that I'm starting to get more like, I don't know, OCD or something. I don't know, just more like I want things to be in place and stuff. But when I was a kid, and you can ask my mom, it's like our bedroom's horrible. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly. I think that, sorry, I lost track of what you were saying.
If you're, let's say you're looking for a number 3, you're working on this piece, like, I kind of want to, would you know where to go in your studio?
Like if I knew, like if I knew that needed something.
Because you have all,
Sorry,
all these materials.
I do have some, like a collection of like a couple heavy duty bags that have magazines in them and paper scraps and things. But then I also have, I mean, sometimes I'll keep like weird pieces of wood and all kinds of like fabric. I also really like fabric stuff.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed about several of your pieces is not only are they, most of these are 2-dimensional, but you do have 3-dimensional aspects to some of these.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to venture into that more.
So that's the direction you find yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have an actual piece that's at my brother's house back in Jacksonville, Alabama, that he was like, oh, I'll make sure and get it to you if you need it. And I was like, don't worry about it. But it probably would have been a good piece because it has a quality kind of like the ones that have some kind of assemblage type, more than just the collage, but like 3D elements. So.
And what is it about the 3D that attracts you? Is it because I'm the same way? It's like I'm kind of getting a little bit more into 3-dimensional rather than 2-dimensional. And some of it is, for me, it's like it's the way that light and shadow play. Like that's the interesting thing to me about 3D. Is there something particular that strikes you?
In the same vein, yeah. Like I just like layers. The idea of layers, like whether it's 2D, 3D, like anything, not to just make things more complicated, but for complexity to create something unique. Like when I'm working on design stuff on the computer, say that's not this kind of stuff, a lot of times I'm using layers, but like I'm using a lot of saturation, like with the layers, like changing the settings with that to get different effects. And it's a different way of like coloring than like I would think somebody would go about doing something like tape. So it's still kind of sticky on one side, but it's an interesting, I do like playing with layers. I like to kind of, whether it is to reinforce an idea or kind of like maybe put it in the background or, just to keep things balanced in my head the way I think it looks balanced.
Cool. Do you do any mock-ups of basic compositions and stuff where you use that as kind of your resource before you start on a physical piece?
Maybe I've done that maybe once. Like most of the time it's like specifically this work for me is like ultimately about not trying to appease anybody but myself, and really just to emote and like get some of my anxiety out. Like that's a big, huge part of it. That's where it's like I don't like to claim it's this big, they might seem kind of crazy, awkward, pieces of artwork, but like I'm not trying to claim they're like, anything crazy, nice and I don't know, hoity-toity, but it just that I lost what I was saying again.
I mean, they are your expressions, and it seems like you're kind of like me. It's like, oh, I equate computers to work, and the freedom of creativity. I don't find the freedom of creativity working on a screen than I do getting my hands dirty.
Mm-hmm. And there's a difference too. The thing I think it is more for me is understanding that there's obviously a difference between doing like graphic design for yourself or freelance or whatever, or like, going to school, getting a graphic design job and trying to go into the graphic design workforce. And I think in that whole area of things, that umbrella is so broad. I didn't really quite know what I wanted to do with it. I didn't want to get like a fine art degree, and in my head, that's, people told me not to do that, but I don't know, maybe it would have been better for me.
So your degree was in
graphic design, yes, sir.
That was at Jacksonville State?
Yes, sir. It's a BFA in graphic design.
But now you're back up here. I guess did we say? You're in Huntsville? You live in Huntsville now?
Yeah, of course. I've been up here for about 2 years. Came up here to kind of start anew, and it's been good. My brother Joseph lives here. He helped me get a job, and it's nice to get to like be around him. And
personal to you that is meaningful. But I mean, other than I understand what you're saying about getting the anxiety out and creating things, but have you like done a found object piece or something that's?
I'm sure I had in college, but not anything that specifically comes to mind. Those feelings and my anxieties and depression and stuff are such a whirlwind of things. It's hard to like figure out sometimes how to like show that, especially as a work of art.
I think it'd be more of an escape from that.
And then there's other things like making music too. So it's like I have these two different things that like, because that's where I'm more like, if it's like I like to emote and work or work through these things, and it's really fun for me. But then like if I'm I guess if I'm like really trying to get a more of a point across instead of like these don't necessarily have a theme or idea, like, but with music that I make, I definitely like to have a, I am making art when there is a definite meaning behind it. But just this collage stuff, I like to just kind of have it as catharsis. But yeah, I mean, for my grandfather, having a huge influence on me growing up, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so like symbolically, the places that are left out of the palette, the wooden palette, like one's like right where his mouth is, and it's kind of symbolizing that like he couldn't quite formulate like exactly what he was trying to say after he had come from being, like a farm kid and then being a scientist. It's, it's kind of sad. I mean, it's super sad, but it's also, it's just wild, life's tough and interesting. But no, one other thing that's actually really pretty cool about that is I used blue pool chalk for his eyes because he taught me how to play pool too. So.
Well, we thank you so much, John, and we can stay and hang out. I do want to say that I hope everyone here and everyone online is able to come back a week from Saturday on November 22nd. That's our open studio night, and the whole building will be bustling, and John will be here in this gallery space. So if you want to talk to him more and learn more about these,
absolutely,
these works, we really, really encourage the interaction between the viewer and the artist, because it's so important, it makes the work so much more impactful to know where the artist is coming from.
And it reinforces your ideas on it too. Like if sometimes it might make you think, well, why am I doing that?
Yeah.
I love questions, or I'm open to any kind of questions. I'll probably learn more the person asking.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you all. And we will see you November 22nd.
Alrighty.